Car crash.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Keilacht Car Crash. I'm Dilum and I'm here with my amazing colleague.
Sandra.
How are you doing, Sandra?
I'm okay. I'm a bit tired, but it's normally after exam. But finally, I post my thesis in, so yeah, now I have some rest. How are you?
Well, I'm tired as well. It's like the weather outside is not great right now. And I did a lot of working the last couple of days, helped you with your thesis. And I actually really want to sleep for like 3 whole days, but that's not possible. But we're going on anyway, and Corona is dying down a little bit. We're all allowed to see a bit more people, which is great. I don't have to like be alone at the studio anymore all day. We can see each other again.
Yes,
and well, we are also joined today by a very special guest who's also showing soon, because the government is allowing cultural events again starting July 1st. So we hope we'll show her and her work very soon at our space, and that is Francesca. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I can't wait to show at your place, guys, and I'm very, very happy to know you. It's very weird because we have a online preview, but I can't wait to see the actual surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, we are also very excited because like we have had all these artworks in the studio and in the space for like how many months now?
I think 3.
More, like almost 4 months. So we're like, okay, it's time we do something with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think yours was like the last artwork we picked up before the quarantine started.
Right. Just in time.
Yeah, just in time. And how are you doing? How is everything going in Italy?
Well, now, right now I am in Milan, and it's true the lockdown is going away a little bit. We can go out, and soon we can go out of the region. Unfortunately, I'm in the worst region of the country, so I'm seen from the exterior as a kind of demon somehow.
Oh.
But yeah, no, I mean. Everything is going. I haven't been to my atelier in the past months, but so this is why I created this kind of house atelier. So I continue to work somehow, yes, let's say. But I'm great to be in my studio like now.
So you weren't even allowed to go to your studio?
But let's say it was a bit far.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I could go, but I didn't want to risk and you know everything.
And everybody around you is also fine, I hope?
Yeah, everyone is now safe. Let's say I'm lucky that around I don't have any problems. But it was a kind of exercise to kind of concentrate in the house world and yeah, with things I have, you know, without being in a rush of buying, I don't know, whatever things. Just use what I had in my little kitchen. That's good. It's a good exercise.
Great.
So was it hard not to create a few months?
Sorry?
Was it hard for you not to create a few months?
It was a challenge somehow. Like, as I told you, I at first, yeah, I was like, oh, what I am doing here? I don't have my, you know, tools. But then it became kind of automatic, you know. I started to work with fabrics and things, simple things like ordinary objects. And also I created a bit of inks by myself. So I did, you know, things with natural materials and stuff. It was a good experiment. But now I'm back.
With everything we learned during the quarantine.
Yeah.
So you just found some material at home and you just worked with that, right?
Yeah, I use a lot of fabrics because I found bed sheets that I didn't use, cotton things. I printed with natural stuff, like really kitchen things, and it was great, it was good. Also, like about the waste, it was a good exercise not to waste and really made the best out of house things and objects. And I printed like with bread. I printed with curcuma, turmeric.
Yeah.
Simple paper, just little experiments, it's not, you don't have to do great things, just a little experimental laboratory.
It's important
But
to do these things while we're locked down, like little experiments. It's given us the freedom to not be that productive, but to see new things.
Yeah, like for example, also the space, like I started to use the building space, I live in a flat with like in between a big block. And so we have many flats. And at some point I was like, okay, this kitchen is not enough. I'm going to go in the shared space of the building and I'm trying to install my things here. So I was, kind of using what what the building gave to the residents.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, in the end, in exhibition in beauty, I will have a kind of ordinary objects, no, somehow, like a buff, a buff tool somehow.
Yeah.
So it's not far from what I will show in the end.
Well, talking about like a bath and stuff, I think we see sometimes a lot of ordinary everyday objects like furniture and like a bath, an oven, a plug, something that maybe resembles a hammock almost in your work. Is that something you consciously choose?
Yeah, like talking about this. Well, the first time actually I used this specific object was in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And I was walking in a street and I found it really, really random. It was a bathtub, and like those very old bathtub, like very long, and it's in Giza. It's like old metal with I really was fascinated by the shape and like the container itself. So I started to use it, and since then I'm very close to objects, like as you say, ordinary objects like the bathtub, but also plugs, as you mentioned. The plugs is part of the bathtub, but what I was interested on is the we see these objects every day and we use them, and they have a function. They are design pieces that you sit on, and they have basically they have a function. But what I was fascinated about is their mythological kind of aspect. Mm-hmm. Like they have a kind of seduction somehow, and they have a poetry, I say poem, poetry. So I was turning around this object and I decided to use it. And since then first of all, I used it for the so-called unseen performances that are actually actions that I decided to do inside the space. And a little by little, I kept the image as a kind of symbol somehow. So forgetting all the function, I I took the object as a, you know, multi-directional tool.
Mm-hmm.
And so I basically, because like this, it really sounds abstract. Basically what I did is to decide to go inside and do an action and record an action of myself spreading clay. So really work with the material and stuff, and occupying a little bit by little bit with very slow movements this very restricted space. And then I started to take the object, like, I don't know, okay, it's a podcast, no one can see it, but
oh, that's great.
Whoa.
I have a wallpaper. This is part of the evolution of this object. I really took the image, printed with gum print, alternative printmaking techniques, and until now, I mean, I'm still using this symbol. But actually, what I haven't said is that I started my artwork, my practice with printmaking, and so let's say that this sensibility is present nowadays, like still present, even if sometimes I do wallpapers or I work with photography or with installations, or also in this somehow in the use of this object, I was still speaking with the printmaking mind, let's say.
Printmaking mind, huh?
Yeah, in the printmaking sensibility, because well, I studied a lot the printmaking, and then I arrived at the point in which I was questioning myself, the limit of printmaking and how this technique, because it's just a technique, how can it be more poetic, and how can it be less restricted, and how can I expand myself and think about the expansion of this technique. So the concept of printing, you know, in this action that I was doing in the bathtub, there is this, my whole body is printing, and I'm kind of shaping the ground with myself, with my hands. And so yeah, in this sense, and also is a restriction, you know, the bathtub is a closed space, and I kind of put my body in that somehow. Also is a kind of because this action actually, it was referred to many things. I like to be to see the object not only as an object, but like, I mean, the bathtub is something that gives kind of, I don't know how to say in English if it's correct, but rebirth tool.
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
like a source of birth, let's say.
You talk about print, and then you talk about like using print with your whole body. So we know also that early work from you was more print, and then you started to work with performances and installations. So
yeah,
maybe you can explain more. How did you do that? Like to come from 2D to your body, like this is a big change, I think.
Yeah.
So how is it happened?
Yeah, I did a jump, so sorry guys.
No, it's okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, so for the first thing is I started to study and to do art with school, and I get really passionate about printmakings and graphic things, and also like do-it-yourself techniques, etc. But then I was thinking about the extension in the space, and yeah, for me, what I think I kept is the indirect way of acting, because sometimes I work with video and performances, and I think that the video and the performances I do is always hidden, you know. I don't consider myself a video artist or a performer or both, you know. So I think the video and the performance is always a mean, you know, a tool that kind of is a choice I did to show myself through the tool of video or whatever. It's a way to show intimacy somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that print is also intimacy?
Print, yeah, definitely also intimacy.
Yeah, because you're also looking for like this poetic sense in the printmaking, which makes it more intimate somehow.
Yeah. I mean, print is very intimacy. It starts from the skin of your body, so it's very connected with yourself, with your little movements around the space and the marks that you leave in the space. Mm-hmm. And it has something very, I don't know, I think it's poetic and mythological somehow, you know, the movements of your own body around, like how to know the space.
And if an artist would paint with his hands, for example, not with a brush, is that also intimacy, or you think it's other way?
Yeah, an artist can do whatever he or she wants. So yeah, it's definitely a very, very direct way to print with the hands. It's something that is a game, you know, something instinct.
It's maybe more about, it's like leaving a mark, which is through printmaking or through painting, or even you in the bathtub is like making a mark in the clay in the bathtub. It's all about leaving a mark that's maybe a sense of I was here and I was alive and I left something behind.
Yeah, it's like a kind of dry swim somehow. So it's a kind of a swim that leaves movements, leaves directions and traces.
Like the dinosaur paw prints you can still find like in certain.
Yeah, exactly. Is a concrete evidence of your movements of your body, and also very let's say random somehow, no? And I mean, in this work, I think it's very important, this work, because it was a kind of turning point in which I really could think about an action or some, like, more than a print on a paper. I could still conceive it as a print. And I was very excited because also I could communicate other stories with this, and I think this is why I'm still using this object, because it was very strong for me.
And so when you do the performances, you call them video performances, right? Because you record them?
I have like 5 minutes of video, but somehow this video is not only the work, you know. It's like, of course.
But so, yeah, because normally a performance is like happening live, and the art or a performance artist considers the performance the work, and then the recording is just a recording. How does that work for you?
It's more like I don't want to impose myself on other people. I prefer to record what I do, the gesture and the action, and give it through a not so direct modality. And so I don't, it's because it's kind of my nature. I don't want to be present. I'm never present, you know. And so it's a second, it's like, it's a choice. It's just a choice.
Like with Bahira Abramovic, the artist is present. In your case, the artist
exactly.
is absent.
Yeah, exactly. It happens many times. Like, so you're a performer. No, I'm not a performer. It's totally different.
You know Marina Abramovic?
Yeah, of
what
course.
you think about her? You like her work?
Yeah, I missed a show. I don't remember if she did it or not in here in Milan. It's very strong. It's very, very strong. It's not my. I understand. It's not how I would behave. And it's really based on, you know, the moment and the impulse. I mean, she's looking at your face and she's there, so you can't do otherwise. Of course. Okay.
But yeah, maybe your work is about like other things than the present and the moment and the action. It's
exactly
about what's left after the action has happened.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the rest, so what it remains of after this action. Of course, I don't know, I feel more comfortable with letting people like see a rune, kind of rune of what I did.
So you started out with printmaking. How did you get drawn into the printmaking process? Why not sculpture or painting or something else? How did it all start out actually at art school?
Okay, I do 2 jumps now. I was applying to the art school here in Milan, and I just wanted to see the space first, you know, because I wanted to have to see it first. And I entered in the laboratory, the atelier of graphic arts, printmakings, and I just really felt very, very comfortable. I remember with I don't know, the smell of the paper, the atmosphere, the kind of organization they had. I just felt comfortable in that lab. And then I didn't know, what was a soft ground or other techniques. So I was like, okay, I want to try, and I want to, experiment a bit with this. With these things I don't know. So I started, and I mean, I realized that, you have these techniques, and then you have that and this and that, and then you can join them together. So it was like, okay, I just like the way, the process they did. And so I went on for 3 years to do that. And then I was like, okay, let's try. I went abroad, and I continued the process with other stuff, and I also knew another approach somehow. I went to England, then I came back. I was very, very happy with these techniques. I opened shared atelier with other people who were doing printmaking like me. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to have my master. Maybe I should still work with these things, but I don't know, let's explore other stuff. So I was like, okay, I can do them in another, more conceptually. And this is what I did for my last 2 years, like last 2 years of masters.
Oh, so your master is 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's not called master here in Italy, but abroad is called master, like
Okay.
specialization.
Funny school systems.
Yeah.
Do you like the art school, or maybe you think that, or maybe you are happy that you are ending your master?
Well, I've finished actually 2 years ago. Not in school anymore. But yeah, if I could continue. Why not? Maybe not there, or maybe in another place. Yeah. Yeah. It passed very, very fast. I don't know.
So you think that art school gives a lot of opportunities for young artists?
It depends on the art school, maybe.
And your school?
Sorry?
And your school?
Yeah, yeah. It's a very difficult question, because my school is, I don't know. I think it's very special somehow. It's really it doesn't guide you so well somehow, and it's not that strict. It gives you a lot of freedom, and I think many people get terrified by that somehow.
Yeah. I think we all know the same situation, because in our school was the same.
Yeah. Plus, yeah, I mean, it gives you a lot of inspiration. It's good for contacts, and it's good for, this kind of other things. But yeah, of course, it's Brera. It's called Brera. It's a good art school.
I have this book from Erich Fromm, which one of my teachers made me buy. It's called the Fear of Freedom. It's a philosophical book, and I got to page 23, and then I stopped reading.
Okay.
Maybe I should pick it up again, because we've been like asking questions about like what it means to be an artist and have all this freedom, but then again there's this responsibility, and if you're free, that also means that you have to do everything yourself, and there's no one there to guide you through it, because it's all your own.
Yeah.
You have that fear for that, to be alone, like not to exhibit or like when the open calls are not answering for you, or when you get a no from a gallery or something. Do you have that fear?
Well, I don't think it's a fear. I don't feel fear, to be honest.
Wow, congratulations. What pills do you take?
Sorry?
What pills do you take?
Many people answer questioning. No, I don't know. I think if you have fear, you don't move. So yes, if you feel that fear is coming, just do other things. I mean, fear will pass. I mean, maybe I'm too positive. I'm a very positive person.
No, but that's great. A great change of pace for us.
But yeah, I mean, the fear of freedom, I mean, it's normal. It's just something that artists have a lot. So we kind of have to deal with that. But you prepare 5 years of studying just by training your fear for the freedom, so you kind of have to finish with the preparation on that. But it's a very good book. I should read it.
Yeah, it's available in a lot of languages, I think.
But you work only at your studio as an artist, or you have another work to get money for to live?
This is the question of all the artists. I work in my studio. I spent few years on doing workshops and teaching, I don't know, drawing classes, printmaking things. So yeah, I mean, somehow to learn how to make art is very, very handy. And when you feel confident with your hands, you know, you can do many things. You can really create many things. I'm working now with few collectives, creating artifacts and handmade things. I worked in a museum. I just finished with the pandemic, but as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it's extensions of what you should do, you know. I mean, you work with art, and yeah, it happens to me to, you know, to communicate art, to learn art, to teach art, and to spread art. Yeah, basically these things, workshops, museums. Yeah, I did the cultural mediators recently in a very cool place here in Milan. It's called Hangar Bicocca. And yeah, I had an association, so you kind of try to, you know, be in the art always. The good vibes.
I would also like to be all the time in the art. Well, I know, yeah, I also teach, and Dilum also teach art. So we also try to get creative job and to live from it. But it's not always that simple, you know?
No, it's not simple. It's not simple. You have to believe in yourself a lot, and there is a lot of concurrence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Competition, let's say.
Competition.
Everybody wants the same jobs.
Exactly. But I mean, in the end, you just have to enjoy, you know. So yeah, it's not easy, but
I think maybe we should go back to your work. So I would like to ask something about the methodology. What do you think? What's mythology in general?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, mythology is present sometimes in my work, and I think it's a good way to kind of create a fictional situation in a real world, you know, like we are nowadays. And mythological things are, I mean, I really like them. And to use it in an artwork, I think is a really good direction, like out of all the other directions. And a really good way to speak about a kind of knowledge that certain society kind of create to explain things, etc. But that is kind of still floating in the time. So it doesn't have a specific time, but it still exists, you know. Somehow it's something that it doesn't, of course it doesn't exist, but it still exists. So I think it's very poetic. And
it's kind of this eternal knowledge, like
exactly.
We have, well, because I also work a lot with mythology and
I read something on your website.
Oh, you looked me up. Okay.
Yes, I was spying.
That's why we have social media these days, to spy on people.
I'm happy that I have no website. Nobody can spy me.
Yeah, I couldn't find you.
I have no website because I have no money to pay it.
Like one day you will have it.
Yeah, well, of course.
I actually made her a website, so it's like ready to go.
Yeah, but
yeah.
you just need to pay it. That's all.
I give a hit.
No, but I understand what you're saying about mythology. Like it's this, like you have science today to explain things, but there are certain things that science kind of neglects. This more internal, ethereal knowledge that is very represented in mythology. That's harder to put into word. Although, yeah, mythology is like stories and stuff, but it's what the stories are telling us is much harder to describe in words.
Yeah, it's a kind of hidden things, you know, that is a hidden shared things because it doesn't belong just to one person. And yeah, I mean, sometimes it also can be paradoxical. How do you say? So yeah, it's curious element. And of course, mythology is very wild, and you have so many. It's a big word, you know. But yeah, sometimes it floats, and it's very good to do a reference on that. For example, in the bathtub, I was doing actually a mythological reference. Like I was remembering this myth of Cherokee, of North American native. Yeah, you know, for the thing I was saying before, for the kind of creation gesture of spreading, there is this specific little short tale that is speaking about the creation of the world and how the world was in the beginning. And so for them, there is this kind of little scrabble, like a little monster that is taking all the lands from the ocean, from down the sea, and is like a little bit is taking on the surface and is spreading on the surface of all the sea. And so this is how we ended up with lands and, you know, soil and, you know, pay and countries. And so I was, you know, taking just the gesture of this spreading little animal.
But yeah, that's again how you see how I think relevant and eternal mythology is, because then you have this philosopher that really interests me, who came up with the idea that like how we form our world is basically divided into two parts, and that's like forming and breaking. Like you can either take a piece of clay and mold it in the way you want it, or you take a piece of stone and you break things away to make another object. So that's like the two basic actions that we can do. And then you see that again with the Cherokee myth, where it's about spreading, which is again then molding the world into existence.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you know the work of Joseph Campbell?
Yeah, I've heard about it. I don't have it in mind.
So yeah, maybe to how do you say, repeat it? It's like he studied mythology and how basically mythology comes back in all different cultures in the same ways, just in different stories, different characters, but with the same messages, which again then says how broad mythology is and that it always relays the same messages, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm like really thinking how people a lot of years ago, how they actually made so poetical stories about all the things, because I think, my opinion, I don't really study the mythology what it is, you know, but like I'm questioning myself. I think that those people made those stories from life, like, you know, they are seeing how the people are talking with each other, what they do with each other, and then they making the poetical version of what they see in their lives, and then they make like stories about that. So this is how I see mythology, you know. So I'm like really thinking why they did it in so poetical way. I don't know.
I mean, I'm just having in mind all the Greek representations and depictings, myths from, you know, like Roman stories and Greeks and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's fascinating that, of course, I mean, image was the only, like, was the strongest, powerful way to communicate and to tell a story. And so, yeah, you have this strong representation of myths, but recurring and repeating always. But yeah, like around an invented thing, you know, you have such a strong visual richness, and so it's very fascinating.
Okay. What else? Oh, I don't know what to ask. A lot of questions.
Maybe about the work. I'm going to really pronounce this badly, I think. My Italian is not the best. Non sono brava a parole.
Ah, yeah. Non sono brava a parole. You forget the A, but it was perfect.
Thank you.
I did it a few years ago. That was a room installation. I created with a lot of, like, almost 600 photographs, 600 prints on the ground, and I disposed the images like kind of in a row, covering all the space, and the room was very dark, and that, like, very few elements, but what I was the work was about recording the many people, like, actually for I don't know, one person I took 4 or 5 frames of the mouth, just the mouth, and I said those people to pronounce the word parola. Okay, so parola means word in Italian, and so the idea was to have this big carpet of words pronounced by different people, and so just the mouths, many mouths open and close, and so this is the title. Non sono brava a parole means I'm not good in words. The thing was, I invited people, I mean, who wanted to enter and to do this, like, to walk around. So they had the choice. They could take the shoes off, enter in the room, and step, and they had to step on mouths and to step on, you know, on people. And the room was very dark, so they didn't realize when they were out the room, they didn't realize what, you know, what they could find on the ground. But then they enter and they were stepping, it's like, okay, I'm stepping on mouths and stepping on words, actually. So, like, okay, literally stepping on words. Also, I had a corner at the bottom of the room. I had a corner with a light that gave this this blue atmosphere, and the light was I mean, it seemed like an eye, you know, from outside. You could choose not to enter, but you saw this eye, kind of bulb light, and then you kind of were curious to enter. So this was, you know, the little detail at the end of the room. And so you enter and you arrive to this bulb, and you saw a little shelf, a little base with contact lenses. And so I just put all my contact lenses that I collected for 1 year. I'm wearing contact lenses always. So so yeah, this was the situation of this room installation.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I conceive it like a big room with a lot of people speaking very loud, but in the end it was very silent. So I like the contrast in between the words, and also the lost. I mean, not only the loss of the meaning, because yeah, you let people pronounce parola, but it's not a meaning anymore. It's just a movement. It's just a sequence of movements that they are all the same. You know, it doesn't matter who pronounced that. It's always the same movement. It's like, I mean, it becomes a kind of semiotic sequence, a kind of semiotic code. And then you have the loss of the sound and all the other sense, but you merge into this place and you discover around. That's all. That was the.
I think it's interesting because then when you do performances, you don't want to do them live because you want to have the trace be the work. But then in this work, you're also not present as a performer, but the audience kind of takes over the performance role almost.
I didn't hear a piece because I.
So when you perform,
yeah,
you don't want to do it live.
Yeah.
Because you want to have the traces be the work.
Yeah.
But then in this work, the audience for me almost becomes the performer.
Yeah. It's kind of yeah, they could choice. They could have the choice, of course. It's not that the room had to be crossed or whatever. They had the choice, and they had this. They transformed themselves, of course, as a kind of part of the artwork, of course. And indirectly, they printed themselves. You know, because of course they, like, by the natural law of gravity, they had to step on images and so leave prints on these papers. So yeah, I like this.
Took them and made them make the print, or make the prints, make the marks on the paper instead of you. It's really interesting. And I also think it's really interesting because, like, we now in America have the whole Black Lives Matter movement that's being really relevant, and we have a lot of riots, and it's becoming really to the forefront. And I think this works like in an indirect way, also speaks very much
It's true.
to that, like speaking, stepping on people, stepping on words, trying to, it's almost, you can make the association with like trying to silence people.
Yeah, definitely.
Is it something that's alive in Italy right now with the everything that's going on?
Well, not like in America, of course, but yeah, I mean, it's on the mouths of everyone. It's a very sad problem, I think.
And what do you think about the situation?
I'm not the kind of artist that works just on criticizing and having a word specifically on these facts, because I don't feel like it. But I do believe that art can be a solution, let's say a democratic solution, I actually, when I heard about it, I don't know. I really looked impossible. So really, like very weird and very far from me. And wow. But it's real.
Okay, so you think that the art would be a good solution for all of this?
Well, it can give an access to everyone, and I do believe that is a democratic language, and I like this thing of having yeah, shared things. Everyone can say what they believe and have access to that.
Actually, that's interesting because not so long ago, I had a small talk, a small discussion with my friend, one of my friends, and we were speaking about a religion or something, and I said that the only religion I have is art. And when he asked me why, I said that I think that art is one of, how to say that, if politics would say that art is forbidden, just forbidden, I can do like banana on banana on banana at home and it's art, you know. So art is one of the things in our world that actually people or politics cannot touch actually. So yeah, it's interesting to think about this, like
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing how art always survives like political regimes and certain repressions, because it is not something, it always starts in the head, and that's a free space for you.
yeah, like, you know, for example, if well, in the morning we had a talk with Dilum, that our colleague, he gets artist status or something. So actually they give actually no money for artists, you know, and the budget for our culture is also cut in Belgium. So
Yeah.
but it's not like, you know, how to say that. For example, let's take sport. Yeah, if politics said like we will cut the budget of matches of football, for example, they will not go in because there's no money to organize all those things, you know. But
yeah.
But the artist is just almost impossible to stop artists, because if you say for me that you will not give money, I will make art from nothing.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, we have this subsistence stimulus, and I believe in that. I believe that even with nothing we can create, and
Of course.
Well, we get nothing. We pay for Kaalacht out of our own pockets, and we pay for everything we do and hire and rent for by ourselves. We just make it work.
yeah, I mean it goes beyond money, you know. It's not just having money. It's not that if you have money you can do things. You can do things also without money. It's like
But
maybe
sometimes
not.
it would be nice to have a little bit of money.
It's true.
Yeah. For example, I have so big projects in my head. It's just really big projects, really big, but I need a really big budget for this, so it's not possible, just not possible to do it, you know. So I make small things.
Yeah, well,
So
understandable. The
That's
thing is,
also
we always create before having money, you know. Usually it's like, okay, I know that I have money, so I create because I will have money. But it's like bubbles. We are like bubbles, and we have our own world, and we float. And but we don't know where we are going, because you create your own worlds, and then maybe you arrive and you explode for this month. But so I think it's very important to be strong and not, not acting for, like, in order to just have money. This comes after.
Of course. That's a good thing. This is an example for young artists.
I mean, it happens to me, and sometimes I work and I'm like, oh, but I don't have this specific thing, so I won't do it. And I know that I'm lying to myself, because either is laziness or is like a big excuse, because then the morning after I wake up and I'm like, wait, I really want to do it. I don't care about this little material. I will do it anyway. So it's just about determination. So
yeah, and I think it's sometimes like, or in my case anyway, I get a lot of anxiety around like monetary issues and space issues, and like, what am I doing with my life? And then it often stops me from like being determined, because I do have like enough money to buy canvases and paint and everything I need to make work. It's just sometimes like holding myself back, and that's something I'm really still trying to learn, to like push myself over that border more. No, but you also find like ways to make it work. Like, for example, now I want to make like a lot of installations with different elements that I have already, but I don't have the space to show it in. So I make 3D models of what I want to make, and then I take those, and they are like the temporary stage of the artwork, and then the end result is then hopefully that I can one day execute them in real life, or a form of them.
One of them is back on your back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
It seems like real. I swear.
Well, I'm never going to be able to make this, because it has this like shower fountain thing that I want to make, and I talked over it with my dad, and he's like, that's not that simple. And I was like, can we install a shower?
Oh my God! Olafur Eliasson made a big sound in Tate's Modern. So I think everything is possible.
He also has a $3 million budget, and I don't.
Maybe some good guy will give you $3 million
and a space to show it in, where I can like make a water pump and stuff.
Maybe.
Getting back to your work, one of the works that I really liked, and let me look up the name again, was the work that you made in the church together with
with my companion is John Mirabel.
Yeah.
It was a duo show that we did last year in a church in Milan.
Yeah, and what was it called again?
The title was Deriva.
Yeah.
And I mean, okay, we spoke about myths, and this was actually based on a legend. Sorry, but they are doing noises and I can't understand. And so, yeah, this was a site-specific work. And we had like 1 month residency into this church in January. So very, very big space, very cold. We create everything from zero. And we were working really into the space, so creating the artworks for the space.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very good challenge. The shows was starting with this big fabric.
Yeah.
Again, hung fabric from above. It was almost 50 meters of fabric.
Wow.
And then it was difficult because we really used the elements we had. Like we couldn't make any holes in the on the walls and use the altar, and I don't know. I mean, we had a lot of restrictions, but it was very good because from restrictions we had good results. We built elements inspired by the story of the place. And so there was a historic research, and we went to see, okay, so why this church is called like this and that. And we found out a very, very cool legend. And so we reconstruct the many, like, let's say, two miracles of this church, you know. I mean, in Italy, in Milano, you have so many churches, and it's very, very interesting to go into the reasons, you know.
That's actually my dream, to one day be able to, because I've had a lot of ideas too, like with churches that I know and the stories behind them, and I have so many ideas, and I was like, and then I saw your work and I was like, damn, she did it.
Yeah, we
in a very nice, very, I think it was a great work, and I was very, very taken with the work.
Thank you.
But with that exhibition, and then you also had another one called the Entre exhibition.
Yes. Basically, that was the exhibition I did during the Art Week in Milan 2 years ago. That was another duo show. I was exposing with another artist, and I had a big space in which I basically worked on my previous atelier, because I used that space as a working space. And I was like, okay, let's cancel everything and create a kind of gallery, because it was a kind of white cube, you know, everything was white, and I reformulated the space. And Entre was an exhibition that was inspired by, I mean, starting from the title, Entre in French means in between. So I created this cut in between the space. So I was using the tissue paper, you know, the silk paper, to divide the space, and so people could enter, but they could enter just through that space. Wait, I'm just charging my phone because I don't have battery. I have the hotspot. And so this separation was could be crossed, and I liked the fact of people, they could enter in the artwork, but with really being careful not to leave marks on these things, you know. Mm-hmm. So you had this really, really fragile thing, and then you access to the room, and the room had a lot of a composition of pedestals, and these pedestals, white pedestals, were finishing with a print on the top. And so the concept was like entering into the printmaking, mm-hmm. kind of not really like that, but yeah, like using the printmaking, but to create an immersive exhibition. And also the pedestal, I like them because they usually, you know, the pedestal is used to hold things and to hold artworks, but in this case I use them as I mean, the print was the pedestal itself, and it was a wall artwork. So it was a kind of, it's like, I know, non sono brava a parole, that we were mentioning before, but with a vertical element somehow. So this thing of the door, you know, to pass through a door. Yes, so this was the general thing. Also I like the element of tissue paper, silk paper, I don't know the same, because with this very fragile element, you have many possibilities, especially in the printmaking process. Is a very, very fragile layer, you have fragile material that is really strong at the same time, because it preserves the ink, but also it can be used as a rest of something, it's like you use it to keep the things, into shoes, into fragile things, as ambivalent objects.
We were talking about like the Entre exhibition and then Non Sovo Brava Parole.
Yeah.
And well, what I noticed is that there was like that a lot of your work has this direct link with the space, and it's either through the history of the space or the feeling and the like dimensions and physicality of the space. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's important, I think, that the artworks has connection and a dialogue, not only a connection with the space, and so it becomes part of it, depending on the situations, like also the towel that I'm sent to you, they sent to you, it will create another situation in your space.
Mm-hmm.
And of course it will be a surprise. And it's very important that the situation creates the exhibition, you are there for a specific moment, and you're part of a specific moment that was created in the past somehow. It would be in the future. So yeah.
Because you also wanted to be present when we hung the towels, and now I understand more why it's important for you that they are in these specific places that are determined by you.
Yeah, it's very important to me. So I was hoping to come, and I'm still conscious. I'm still trying to come for the opening.
Mm-hmm.
Also because you create it's always an exchange to set an artwork. I believe that since we are a group of artists, we have a lot to exchange at that moment.
That's also why we want to wait until like the borders are open and that people can really travel to the exhibition, because we have a couple of artists from Germany, and you're from Italy, and then we have a couple of people from the United States. We have Belgium, we have a girl from the Netherlands, so we really want that everybody has the opportunity to come to the exhibition. And now with COVID, we learn how to use Skype and Zoom, so that can maybe also be.
It's also an opportunity for the viewer to like ask the questions for for the artist. It's not always so interesting to interview the creators about the works, because artists are always the best people who can explain their own work. So of course,
not always.
I don't know. Yeah, not always, because Luc Tuymans never explained his work. That's true. Yeah.
But talking about like exchange between artists, you seem to work a lot together with artists and have duo shows where you not only show your own work together with someone else, but really work together to create work.
Yeah.
Is that important?
Of course, I work very often with other people, and I think it's important, the exchange of ideas, and you have the moment in which those ideas becomes one thing, I was speaking about my boyfriend. We worked together also, like the church project we did. I work with other artists. Right now we have a project called Caron. This is more about nature, like we work on the issue of fires, you know. And yeah, but right now I have these two things. It's very important to me, the collaboration, because you have an exchange, and in the end you have you see the the production, and I like to conceive it as a whole piece, as an organic collaboration. We never work in both the groups. We never work separately, like. And it's good to exchange the various skills.
And that's true, because we
I don't know
don't
if
really.
better.
You said that you worked together with your boyfriend.
Yeah.
So he's also an artist.
Yes.
Okay. I have.
Bring him to the show.
I have the question. Actually, it's a little bit funny, but if we go back to Abramovich, she said that it's not impossible to have a family with two artists, like to have a relationship in between two artists. Is that so?
Yes, of course. It's not impossible. It's very stimulating, I think.
Oh, okay. So it's okay for your boyfriend that you are an artist. Also, you can deal with your ideas, or is somehow.
He's just off screen, isn't he? He's listening right now.
He's the one who does the noises.
Okay.
The noisy boyfriend.
He doesn't want to show because it's a shame.
No, I ask it because my boyfriend is also an artist, so we are already 8 years together. So I am not really into the idea of Abramovich. I don't know.
I don't know. It depends on time. We don't have 8 years, but I mean, we work pretty well together. I have to say, we have tasks that we already know how to follow, and so we have we are very coordinated, So, and guys, we are about to open an atelier in Milan. You will be very welcome to come to our place.
Well, I have no plans for this summer, so
yeah, me neither. So,
well, I'm single, so I wouldn't know anything about that.
Okay, so we ask the same questions for all artists we are talking with. So I'm going to start with the first one. Who is your favorite artist and why?
Okay, my boyfriend just is pointing at himself, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say that. Okay, I had a kind of turning point with an artist. Is a Portuguese artist. I don't know if you know it, Helena Almeida.
Yeah, I know her. She had a show, I think, in Wales recently. In Brussels.
Sorry?
She had a show in Brussels recently.
I don't know, because she died recently, so
yeah.
Maybe before. But yeah, it can be. Yeah, it can be. I really like her. And
what's she doing? Because I don't know her, so maybe you guys can explain a bit.
Well, she works with she worked. I mean, it's not that contemporary. She works on during the 70s and 80s a lot, and she does photography, and she let's say she acts on photography a lot with the brushes, interventions, or pictorial elements. So the photography often documents an action that she does before. And she kind of show herself through the photography. But maybe what I'm interested on is the way she treats the body, you know, because she puts herself on the camera, like on the shot, like to shot and to reveal her body. She always reveals her body, but is very neutral somehow, and also very graphic, and you know, this black and white, and she, I think she's very poetic. She's not, because the I think that sometimes to show yourself to other people can be a bit heavy, you know, and your presence is very strong somehow, but to make it harmonic, it's a bit rare, and I think she creates a harmonic figure of herself.
Yeah.
Okay. The other question would be, describe your studio in one sentence.
Okay, so now my studio is very messy because we are about to move. So this is the first objective. Very, very messy. I always have. No, wait. I had to describe my studio with one sentence.
One sentence.
One sentence.
Very messy.
Very messy. No, but smells of ink.
Okay. Wow, I like it. All right. All right. And the best book or documentary or a movie that you can that you love to look at or to read?
Allora, let's say during the quarantine, I saw many movies because I had time. I saw a very, I don't know if call it a documentary or a movie, maybe it's both. I saw a short film, let's say. I think you can find it on YouTube. It's called Mind Walk, and it's very inspiring. If you haven't seen it, it's called Mind Walk. Is a speech, is a long speech, and so let's say in a form of dialogue, they speak about, there are 3 characters, so very few people, but they are speaking about philosophy, quantum physics, and science in general. It's very stimulating. Books, well, right now I'm reading a comic book. I'm reading Persepolis. I don't know. Sometimes I read comic book, but
okay.
I mean, just right now. I'm in that
I'm
mood.
gonna look up that movie.
Yeah.
I already Googled it.
All right.
You can find it.
And would you have some tips for young artists to the future? Okay,
young artists, just not being paranoid and follow their good vibes, and never surrender. And just I mean, not get distracting about things. Also, we were speaking about the money, you know. I mean, I would put that into the always, I mean, never surrendering, and take the good vibes, and if you wake up without the good vibes, stay in bed all the time, and Who cares?
Mhm.
Just continue on the good vibes and on the instinct. Very, very important.
So basically, look at what I do and then do the complete opposite. That's why I keep telling everybody, don't do art school. Look at what happened to me.
Right. Okay. It was really nice to talk with you. It was really interesting to listen to your about your works, like how do you see art and what do you think about that. So I think it was really nice to see you, and I'm really excited to show your work in our exhibition. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All
I'm
right.
very excited to see you in Brussels.
Mhm.
We hope so too. We're going to, now I'm so happy because now we finally have some perspective on when we can open up again. And yeah, I hope next week we can start discussing it and then have an opening date by the end of June.
End of, okay, well, let's.
By then we'll know when it opens. I think maybe beginning of August, so that everybody has enough time again to plan everything and be healthy.
Okay, I will be there.
Okay, great.
All right.
And you
We
finally
will see you there.
big projects you have, right?
Building up the exhibition and then hoping the other exhibitions that got canceled happen again.
Yeah, I hope also. Okay, so we will see you at the exhibition, hopefully. And thank you all the listeners. And till the next Monday.
Yeah, next episode. Bye.
Bye.